I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education to order. Meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the Board Secretary on February 18th, 2025 in the following manner. Posted notice on the School Bulletin Board of the Administration Building, transmitted to the Courier Post, Philadelphia Inquirer, and the Clerk of Cherry Hill Township. Please rise and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Sugars, can you please call the roll?
Dr. Braddock,
Here.
Mrs. Trevine,
Here.
Dr. Dreisen,
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher,
Here.
Mr. Greenbaum,
Here.
Mr. Mayor,
Here.
Ms. Palmer,
Here.
Ms. Stern, Mrs. Winters.
Here. Thank you. So tonight we're going to start with our NJSBA board training. We are thrilled to have Dr. Lori Bandlow from NJSBA here to provide roles and responsibilities training for the board. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mrs. Winters. So first, I want to thank the Board of Education for allowing me to come out this evening on behalf of the New Jersey School Board Association. We want to thank each and every one of you for your dedication and commitment to the community of Cherry Hill and also to all the students. You all have full-time jobs, you have lives. People don't really realize the tremendous amount of work that you do, not only at the board table, but behind the scenes. So thank you for all of that. Just want to share a little bit about myself. I'm new to New Jersey school boards, started July 1st. I did see Dean at the new board member orientation. Great to see you there. Are there any other new board members on? Terrific, terrific. So welcome. I'm here to serve each and every one of you. Within the folder that I gave you is my business card. You can reach out to me anytime via email or cell phone. I am here for you. Everything that we speak about is confidential, but I'm here to support the Cherry Hill Board of Education in every way, shape, or form. A little bit about me. I am a former educator, 38 years in New York and New Jersey. I've been in every socioeconomic district you can think of, superintendent in New York and New Jersey, but thrilled to come back home to Jersey and work for New Jersey School Board Association. I think there is no better education system and no better education service that will serve boards, and I wish my board in New York had this. So tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit. I'm going to be sharing some information. I promise you I won't do death by PowerPoint. You'll see a lot of words, but I will go over things thoroughly, but not word for word. But I want you just to know that our PowerPoints and our presentations are strictly, they're not legal. Only your board solicitor can provide the board with legal advice, your board appointed attorney. New Jersey School Boards is there to help guide you with the laws, best practices, best research. So with that said, we're going to get started. Lynn, I'm going to thank you, Mrs. Sugars, for helping me with the PowerPoint this evening. So first, we're going to be talking about roles and responsibilities, and the PowerPoint is right up there for you to take a look at. So board members have very specific roles and responsibilities that they need to keep in mind so that everybody stays in their lane and we move the district forward in a very positive direction for all students in Cherry Hill. Okay. So the main focus of everything that you do is for your students. That's what you're here for. That is your main responsibility, and making sure that you're working together, and relationships are important, collaborating is important, as you all know, and also making sure that you're building trust amongst yourselves, especially between the board and the superintendent. We're going to talk about those roles right now. So, I'm sorry, it's so small. Lynn, is there any way we can make it a little bigger? There's just a few graphics that are important, but the most important thing that effective boards do, and I don't know if any of you have seen the Lighthouse study. If you do go to the convention, good. The Iowa Lighthouse study came out recently and had a great amount of research that shows what do really great effective boards do to move student achievement. So take a look at that, sign up for a workshop. But one of the things that we want to talk about is they have a shared mission and vision. And I know that you are going to be working on, or you already have, a strategic plan. I looked at some of the goals that you have. So it's very clear to me that Cherry Hill has very clear mission, vision, and values, and that you work to maintain a climate of trust and your leadership team members understand and respect one another, and that the communication is constant, equal, and timely, and that there's diversity of thought and all opinions matter. So I'm just going to wait for a minute and see if they can. We'll go up to the balcony viewpoint, Lynn, while you're working on making it bigger. I'm just going to talk about, I'm not sure if any of you read the book by Hevitz on Leadership on the Line. In Hevitz's book, thank you, that's great. So we'll go to the balcony spot. In that book, Leadership on the Line, Hevitz talks about the balcony, and all board members would, you are up, if, Lynn, would you mind going to that balcony picture? Okay, and I need to stay by the microphone, right, throughout the whole thing? Okay, all right. So we talk about being on the balcony. The board is always on the balcony. You are always overlooking the district and really looking at it from a very, very higher plane. Dr. Morton will come up to the balcony periodically. He is a member of the board. He's not a voting member of the board, but he will move from the balcony to the dance floor. So he goes down to the dance floor to make sure that, because the board is the what and the superintendent is the how. So he's going to make sure that the policies and things that we put into practice are moving. So on the dance floor, he's going to make sure Ms. Sugars is doing everything she needs to do as far as the business office is concerned, your food service director, your head of maintenance. He is going to make sure that on that dance floor, people are moving the way that the board and all of us want to in this district. Next slide, please. So the 4 functions of a board, as you know, is setting policy. The policy is very important. You follow the laws in the state of New Jersey and throughout the country, but you also make it unique to Cherry Hill, to your district, what your district's needs are. Also planning. You work together to plan, whether it's through a strategic plan, whether you're setting district or board goals, planning is critical. And also appraising. One of the most important jobs you do is appraising your superintendent of schools. That is your key person. Who is the only person that you hire in the district? The superintendent. Everybody underneath Dr. Morton reports to him. He appraises them. Another key thing that you want to make sure that you do is your board self-evaluation every year. I can come back, give you the feedback on this board self-evaluation anytime we have a new self-evaluation. There's a webinar tomorrow that's coming out, and I'll give you feedback on some of the great things that are going on and some areas you might want to work on and maybe set goals for the future. So just keep that in mind. So now we're going to go to what does public school governance look like? So the New Jersey Constitution, more important now than ever, gives power to the legislature, who then gives power to the State Board of Education, who then the State Board of Education and the staff set out New Jersey Department of Education, carries out mandates and different types of laws. So right now we're continuing to follow the rules and the laws at the New Jersey Department of Education. And I saw the beautiful letter that the two of you had sent out to the community, so that was very good. The boards must demonstrate that every policy and action is based on what is best for all students in the district. And board members, you are officials. You are state officials that are appointed by the state law to govern local public schools. And when you come together as a full board, that is when you have your full power. All right, so the board superintendent roles are really, really important. The board, as we said before, you are going to be set up on that balcony, looking at the vision. What do you want Cherry Hill to look like in the next 5 years? What are the missions? What are the goals? What are the policies we need to put in place? And Dr. Morton, your superintendent, is going to be looking at those objectives, procedures, and the action plans and regulations. He will be putting that into action. And then the end results are, the what is the what, why, and how much. And he's going to figure out like how, when, where, and whom is going to carry out those action plans that you put together for either your strategic plan or your board goals, your district goals. And all those things are very, very important. I'm going to move to next. Okay, so board members are, as we said, policymakers. You decide the direction that you want the district to go in. Your regulations are the bylaws are explain how the board will actually govern itself. You're visionaries, you set the goals for the district and the standards for the district, and you are the key communicators. So you communicate throughout the community, and you are VIPs. People are always watching you. You set the bar high for your community, you are models for the community, and hopefully you are moving the district forward in a positive direction. Okay, so Dr. Morton's role is huge. He is the chief advisor to the board, so he will be coming to the board with recommendations, with different alternatives of ways to look at things, information that he not only received from his staff and all the professionals within the district, but some of the information from research and best practices throughout the state and throughout the country, and sometimes throughout the world through some of his studies and research. So he is the educational leader and he is the executive officer. So he'll make sure that the schools are run well. He takes care of the day-to-day workings of the school. Make sure that everything is implemented, policies are implemented. That is his job. So another way to look at it is the board for the superintendent, and the superintendent is the other title you can say is the chief implementer for the district. So the board needs to trust the superintendent, and in turn, the superintendent needs to give the board loyalty and also give the board the best advice that he has at the time. He'll be attending numerous meetings, roundtables, and state and federal meetings where he'll get information that he will be sure to share with you. And the board needs to respect the professional training and experience of your superintendent. That is key. And in turn, he needs to make sure that he provides competent management of your schools and that you're happy with that. And you need to have confidence in your chief school administrator's ability to administer the district and see that the board's policies are implemented is what the superintendent needs to do. So we'll go to the next slide. So our little cloud things are not going to work here, but there's a few things that, some of the things that the board does. If you take a look at the board, approves strategic planning. The board evaluates the superintendent. The superintendent oversees instructional programs. The superintendent administers contracts. The board establishes policy, and the superintendent recommends and implements policy. And the board approves curricular materials, and the superintendent oversees district leadership. So to be most effective, you need to work together. Long story short, you need to work together in order to move all the students in your district and to raise student achievement. Okay, Lynn, we're going to go to the slide that says no surprises. Okay, so this is really important. So no surprises works both ways. So if Dr. Morton knows, hey, we're going to have a huge crowd coming out to the board meeting tonight, he has to make sure that he lets you know, listen, there's a crowd coming out tonight and it's about this particular issue. And then the same on the other side. When you get your agenda, I don't know if you get it on a Thursday before the board meeting, please be sure to read the agenda. If you have questions, follow your district protocol. In most districts, and Jean, I'm not sure if this is the way it goes here, but they will let the board president know if they have any questions about anything on the agenda ahead of time. This gives Dr. Morton's cabinet time to research your question and be prepared to belly up to the table to answer those questions in an intelligent way so that the conversation at the board table is really productive. So the no surprises works both ways and makes for a really, really good board meeting that is productive and doesn't bog you guys down. Because when you get bogged down and you're not working together, you are not getting things done for the students in your district. And I'm sure you know that already. Okay, we'll move to the next one. Staying in your lane is critically important. We like to say at school boards that your BA, Lynn, will come to the board meetings with her suitcase. And in her suitcase is your superhero capes. When you sit down, she gives you your capes, you put your superhero capes on. When you are together as a full board, a quorum, that is when you legally have the power to make things happen. At the end of the meeting, Lynn says, okay, great meeting, everybody. Give me your cape. I'm going to fold it up, put it back in the suitcase. We'll save it for the next meeting. Then you go about your business. You have no legal authority, and correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, when you leave the board table and you go out, thank goodness you can go out and live your life. Okay? It doesn't mean people are not going to approach you, but your power is when you're together, no other time. Okay. So the role of the board member, individuals, as I said, unless it's written in policy that someone other than the board president or the superintendent are able to be the spokesperson for the district. Your board president is a spokesperson for the board. When things happen, you're gonna be like, "Ooh, I'm glad I'm not the board president," because she's gonna have to be the one that is answering to the news media, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a bit. Dr. Morton is a spokesperson for the district. You want those one singular voices, because if there are more voices talking to the media, you are going to create a huge mess for yourself, for the district, and for the students and the teachers in the district and the faculty and staff. So always remember that. So also moving on, keep in mind that the most essential skill is knowing what a quorum is. It's the majority of the board. So you have to make sure you can count to a quorum, which is pretty easy. So acting with a majority is extremely important. And you come to the table, you're a board team. You might not always get your way. You might vote no on something, and that's okay. You vote your conscience. You come prepared, you do your research, you know what you're going to be voting on, but you might say, I'm going to say no on that. And that's okay. And you might not be in the majority at this point, and that role will change at times. But remember that you have to come to consensus. You don't want to silence those other voices. You want all voices to be heard. That's the job of your board president at the meeting. You want to make sure everybody's heard and everybody can at least live with the decision. And we know that from whether you played team sports or you did individual sports or clubs, you work together to create wonderful things for your kids. Okay. The other piece is the ethics, the code of ethics, which you signed off on. I hope that you read it very carefully. Just a couple things I want to kind of highlight. It's really tiny up there, but one of the code of ethics is make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and meet the individual needs of all children. Every single baby that walks through the doors in Cherry Hill Public Schools is your baby. We are here to support every child and to help them on their path, whatever path that might be. So they need you now more than ever. And your job is so important. And thank you again for doing this. Also, another really important one is G, upholding the confidentiality, providing accurate information and interpretation and community aspirations. You're just an executive session. We like to say at New Jersey school boards, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens in executive session stays in executive session, because you are literally holding the lives of your staff, faculty, and students in your hands. That's why you see numbers on the agenda, not students' names or faculty names or staff names, because you have been entrusted by the community to protect people and to make sure that you make decisions in the best interest of them and for the district. So that's critical. So communicating, moving to the next slide, communicating with your community is really, really important. And you are the ambassadors for the community. Sometimes people will come right to you with a problem because they see you and they might be innocent about it. Sometimes they say, I'm just going to go to Dean and talk to him right away. Or I'm going to go to Adam and just go right to Adam with the problem. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But just remember that people are always going to approach you. People always want to see you at events. I'm sure you split up and go to different events. It's so important for them to know that you know what's going on in the district when you're voting on things. Important. Many districts also have key communicator committees where they have other folks that have different, that are heads of different groups in the Rotary Club, the Kiwanis Club. You have those people that get together maybe 2 or 3 times a year to give them updates of what's happening, but also to get them to be invested in the community. And I saw that that was one of your district goals that was on your website, had to do with working with the community. So the role of the board member is to be an active listener. You will learn so much. I learned so much over my 38 years, and I'm still learning so much working at school boards and working with great boards like yourself. You will learn so much by having that active listening and that active listening wheel, which you can't really read, but it's really, really critical to listen to citizens when they come up for public comments. I know it's hard. Sometimes you might want to roll your eyes. You might want to, but try just to be very thoughtful, listen, because there might be something that is said that you might not have known before, and might kind of change the way that you're thinking about things, or with the cabinet as well, if they're sharing information and each other. Okay. So I just want you, I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. So I just want you to think about what do you think about the following questions, and then we're going to go through them. I have children in school. How can I talk with their teachers now that I'm on the school board? Is it okay to visit the schools? How do you respond to parents calling, emailing about district staff or other concerns? So let's go down to the chain of command. The chain of command, the next slide. Thank you, Lynn. The chain of command in your district is critically important. When the chain of command breaks down, the morale in the district will go down. The functions of the board will go down, and you will not be able to move the district forward for your students. So I always said to my boards and always reminded myself that I don't have the answer. If a parent is coming to me and saying, Dr. Banlow, I'm really upset about this one teacher did X, Y, and Z. She's not implementing the new math program correctly. Thank you for letting me know. Did you speak to the teacher? So go to the lowest level of the chain. And if they spoke to the teacher, speak to the assistant principal, because they're going to answer the question way better than I would as a former superintendent, or you might as a board member. You do not want to get involved in the chain because things, hopefully, in most cases, it doesn't percolate to the top and get to you in executive session. But if you have gotten involved, you are going to not be able to participate in executive session if things percolate and get to your level. So you are at the top of the chain. So honor the chain of command. It's so critical. I see a lot of nodding, so I know you guys, great. So, providing access to the public, your job is to not run the schools, but to see that the schools are well run. And we really kind of talked about that already. So, if one of the things is, if a parent does approach you, you do the same thing. If they want to complain about a program, I hear you, thank you. And then one of the other things I forgot to mention, I'm sorry, Gina and Kwam, is to make sure that if somebody does approach you, you let your board president know, you let your superintendent know, so they will make sure that it is followed through. So you can rest assured, and in some cases, they might report back to you with what the situation is. So, the same thing here on this one, do not solicit. Sometimes you probably would have just dying to know, what does the teachers think about this new language arts program? Safety and security drills. I really want to know what those, all the floor plans are. Certain things you just can't know because you want to protect your kids. So be sure that you're not soliciting. And as I said, be sure you notify the superintendent and the board president. Okay. So some board member communication tips. We've already talked about that the superintendent is a spokesperson for the district and the board president is a spokesperson for the board. And it's great to see your student board members here. Welcome, welcome. You get to miss the boring part, so we're getting towards the end now. All right. So here's some board member communication tips. So we all have social media. I try to avoid social media. I'm so glad my daughter said, get off social media, Mom. Years ago, when it was really simple and there was one thing, you could put a disclaimer on, which we'll talk about in a minute. And if Paul wants to add anything, Paul, feel free at any point. It's really, really critical to make sure that, social media, Lynn, can we go to the next slide? I just want to make sure. When you are communicating with people, first and foremost, always use your board email. Do not use your personal email. Don't send things from your board email to your personal email because everything can be Oprah'd. Your text messages can be Oprah'd. All right. If you sent text messages to each other, I've had that happen in former districts where they put a little machine on your phone and they take all your texts. So be very, very protective of yourself, of the students in the district, and of the district itself. So be careful. Also, when you are communicating, never reply all, because you have to be careful that you're not having a board meeting within your email. And that can just happen innocently. Wait a minute, we should not be getting into the weeds with this. It should just be maybe something that comes out from Gina or something that comes out from Dr. Morton with your update, but don't get into the weeds, because you cannot do that. Paul, right on target? Okay, all right, good. Well, at one of the meetings, I did an ethics presentation, and one of the guys who was the head of the ethics committee was there, and it was my first one. I was like, thank goodness he let me know I did an okay job. So hopefully so far so good. All right. So social media, we're going to go to the next slide. All our favorite. Okay. So years and years and years ago, when there was limited amount of social media, you could use this disclaimer, which many of you have probably seen already, from the not the Securities and Exchange Commission, but the School Ethics Commission. And on the disclaimer, it says the following statements are made in my capacity as a private citizen and not in my capacity as a board member. These statements are also not representative of the board or its individual members and solely represent my own personal opinions. Years ago, that was a get out of jail free card. It is no longer that, because what's happening, it's really dependent upon the substance of the writing, the content, and the perception of people as they read it. I'll very quickly, do I have some time, Lynn? Am I going over? All right. I want to just share a really quick story that was out in the news. It was not anything that I can't share. It had to do with the First Amendment. We had a board member on our board when I was in New York State, and it was right after the George Floyd situation. She put something on Facebook that had to do with it. She legally, according to our attorneys, did nothing wrong. She stated her own opinion, personal opinion about the situation. Well, you can only imagine the uproar of the students at the high school, the uproar of the New York media who descended upon Brewster, New York, the uproar of the faculty and staff, and this wonderful board member who made a bad mistake, bad judgment, but was legally okay, worked in another district as a teacher, had children, and it was just awful, awful. So just be careful. And it just had to do, she didn't do anything wrong legally. It had to do with the substance and the interpretation of all the folks out there. The silent majority just came out. So just wanted to share that because it's no longer, that disclaimer is no longer a free get out of jail free card. So the role of the board member, every policy a board of ed approves, every action a board takes, needs to be based on what is best for the education of all the students in the school district. And just to close out, I just want to thank you for everything that you do once again. And just the one last little slide, we just want to say congratulations to our new board members. We hope you settle in. You've got a lot of great board members here, a lot of great support, great district, the words on the street, how great this district is. So you know that. There's no one giant step that does it. It's a lot of little steps. So thank you for having me come out tonight. I can answer any questions you have, or you can get a nice little break. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you so much, Dr. Van Loo. I'm going to open the floor to board member questions about roles and responsibilities. This is your moment, board members. If you have a question, ask it now. Ms. Sherfain.
I have a few.
Okay.
Would you recommend that if we attend like PTA meetings as a private, like as a parent, to give that disclaimer when we get there, that we're there as a private citizen?
You can, in our ethics presentation, you can attend PT. You can still be the mom that you are.
Do we have to like formally say I'm here as myself and not a board member?
No, you don't have to do
Okay.
that. You do not have to do it.
And then can you elaborate or speak a little bit to the dynamic that we have as board members? As you said, obviously the students are our first priority, but also as stewards of our financial situation and speakers for the public voice and all of that, and how to balance all of that. If you could just elaborate at some point.
Yeah, you have a lot on your plate as board members, and there's a lot to learn and a lot to know. And the best thing that you can do is if someone comes up to you as a steward of financial things, for example, if there's a question that you don't know, just say, I don't know the answer to that. I'll speak to our board president, and I'll have have her reach out to the business, she'll reach out to the superintendent, and they'll take it from there. So don't put yourself in a situation where you feel like you can't answer something. One of the things that I can do is I can come back for another training, which is the board's role in finance, which Lynn and I could work together and tailor it specifically for Cherry Hill so that we can talk more about it. Because don't be afraid to ask. There's so many things on those financial sheets that you just won't be able to understand.
Sure. And I guess I was thinking more of when we are faced with decisions that at face value do not seem to maybe benefit the students, because it's also a financial decision, and being able to ethically weigh the intricacy between being good financial stewards and also looking out for the best interest of the students.
Okay. So Dr. Morton, I don't want to put any words in your mouth, so stop me if I'm saying too much, but one of the most important things is to have a strategic plan. Because when you have a strategic plan, you know exactly where you want to put your money. this is how we're going to be spending our money. This is the kinds of programs we're going to be implemented, because you don't want to have too many plates spinning at the same time. So if you are staying within those confines of the information that Dr. Morton is sharing with you in, the weekly updates, you should be staying on top of all that, and understand your strategic plan, your district goals, and it all fits into that puzzle. You can check with each other, check with, with your superintendent, just for a reality check to make sure that you are, before you come to the table to vote, to make sure that you're well informed.
I have a few more, but there's only one that I'll ask because I don't want to keep going on. I want to give other people time, but there is one so I'm newer-ish. This is only my second year on the board. So this is still something that I just internally battle with at pretty much every meeting. The idea of no surprises. And I think that it's personally difficult for me because my intention is not to surprise when we're at the table, but there might be something that arises in discussion that makes me think, oh my gosh, I don't know enough about that, or I need to know more. Do you have any advice or any guidance on how to navigate the waters of that fine line between maybe potentially asking a question that somebody's unprepared for just purely because you don't know and you didn't foresee that coming up before the meeting?
I think, just from my experience as a superintendent, and Dr. Morton, kick in if there's anything you want to add, I think it's so critical for board members to really read everything and read the agenda and fully understand, and not be afraid to ask questions if you don't know what is this item really about? I don't really know enough about it. So you let your board president know, and so Dr. Morton's prepared for that. I might be asking some questions about this particular item, and you might not be able to give him all the questions, but at least he'll be prepared. Or if it's a business item, Lynn will be prepared, or your curriculum person is prepared. So at least they have a general idea, sometimes a specific, as best you can. And there will be things that come up that, and Dr. Morton might say, let me look into that and get back to you. And that's okay too. Is that all right, Dr. Morton? You want to add?
Yes, absolutely. That's great. And I think the intention is to provide as thorough of a response as possible and to answer the question actually. So, the more lead time, the better. But, if
Yeah.
things come up, they come up.
I
And
appreciate
we
it. Yeah,
we do our best to address them.
that's helpful because I find I'm just speaking specifically for myself. A lot of times just reading something isn't giving me as much insight as when I hear it being discussed. So I appreciate that. That's all very helpful.
That makes sense. You done? You have another one? All right. Okay.
Other board member questions?
All good questions.
Other board member questions? Ms. Stern?
First of all, thank you. And I think, referencing what you're talking about, Mrs. Trefane, it's really hard to there's so much to know. I don't know what the district sizes were where you came from in New York, but in New Jersey, we're one of the largest districts.
Yes.
So it's always a lot. There's always like fires, that you're dealing with, or the heat map, as Mr. Mayor used to call it. And I think when you want to do this job well, the amount of time that it really takes to not just read everything, but synthesize and the longer we have here, the more we get to go to see other schools and get to know more of the schools, it just takes a long time.
It does.
And it takes a lot of dedicated time, and the rest of us, I think it's hard to dedicate the level of time sometimes, and we do it. I know that's a challenge that I sometimes, feel, find myself in.
Miriam, if I could say, just give yourself, all of you, give yourself a break, because you're always going to be learning. Dr. Morton's always learning. We're all always learning something new. I mean, whoever thought we'd have to deal with that awful COVID, whoever thought we were going to have to deal with that.
Right.
So
right.
cut yourself a break.
You never saw coming.
You do as best you can.
I think one of the things that I feel, and I'm now the longest serving board member. I haven't been here that long, but I am. So I think one of the things that year after year I do see is kind of like a question. And I feel like sometimes that, having been here a little longer, I feel like I want to be able to respond to, but I don't always know how to do it kind of the best way that makes sense. But this question of, we sometimes we get like a lot of questioning about, like, let's say our committee meetings, right? Why, if we have to sometimes have closed door committee meetings, or, kind of doing the work in public, that people will use the word like, oh, you need to be transparent, you need to do work in public. One of the things that I see is anything you do in a full venue should always have a lot of preparation leading up to it. That's how I look at it. I look at that in every avenue. And I always say, like, even my kids, like they do a group project. The first time they're working on something is not when they're presenting their group project. They do all the work ahead of time. I think of the board as a group project in that regard. Or if I compare it to, you know, professional life, you know, everything can be done sometimes in smaller groups. Not everything is kind of prime time yet,
Right.
right? So I guess, but I think that's challenging when that is portrayed as not being transparent. And I guess, how do you square that? Like, you know, how do you explain that or square that in a way that helps everybody, certainly all of us, and then as much as possible, anybody out there who's, you know, concerned about that, like kind of understand that difference of like, sometimes there's work that's done ahead of time to prep to get to a point. Does that, am I making
Yeah,
sense?
it makes a lot of sense. During the pandemic and we got the COVID funding, there was a lot of parents that were saying, what are you spending that money on? You already spent that money. So when normally at board meetings, you can, you know, share information. You know, you'll have presentations. So there's transparency there. There's transparency with, you know, letters that just went out. There was a letter that just went out from your board president and your superintendent about what's going on in the country. So that's where some transparency can come in. When you have individual people, I have found, and Dr. Morton, let me know if you don't agree, that, you know, are really saying, you know, you're not being transparent. I invite them in. And I had them sit down with my BA and showed them, let me just show you everything. Here's what we did. So there are sometimes people in the community that might feel like you're not being transparent. You engage them. And there was also situations where we had board meetings where the public didn't understand that it's public comment, not public discourse. Okay, that's always hard. Every district deals with that, you guys. You are not alone with any of these things. So we decided at the time, and it has to be appropriate, and when we had that big situation after the George Floyd situation, you know, we had tons of people coming to the board meetings. They wanted to talk. We had a forum. We had a forum in the bleachers on the football field so that we could have people share how they're feeling and we could talk with them and talk about the curriculum. So we were being transparent in that venue. So sometimes when people ask you about transparency, it could be something that they need to talk to their teacher more about, or it could be something they need to talk to their building principal about. So, you know, it's case by case and you do the best you can. I don't know, Dr. Morton, is there anything you want to add? Is that good? Okay.
Just kind of a follow-up. So that's really helpful in terms of
Yeah.
like individuals or so, but like, I think just also a question for us as a board in general, like, I guess differentiating, like, you know, what is talked about in our public meetings, you know, how in depth are we going into in terms of many different topics? You know, when is it, you know, when are things still kind of in discussion versus when are they like appropriate to be, you know, included in a public meeting? Because I mean, I do think that's like, sometimes it's hard to tell, you know, sometimes people, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think that's like, you know, taking, because I ask in terms of like, I always think about what's the impact on kids, right? We all do, right? Like what ultimately, like how does this play out against kids in terms
Right.
of how it impacts our kids? So, you know, I think understanding that like timeline, I guess, is maybe part of it. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
helped.
And, you know, you're not, people are always going to, there's certain things that happen in executive sessions you just can't share. And people, you have been appointed to these positions because people in your community entrusted you to do a great job. So you have to remember that, you know, you're here for a reason. They trust your judgment. And your board meeting is when you discuss the items, the action items, and things are questioned and people can read and people can come up and make public comments and they can make you think about, okay, let's look into this a little bit further. Maybe there's something else we could do. And I'm sure you guys have done that before. So that really shows your community that you are definitely being receptive and as transparent as you possibly can, given whatever situation it is. I hope that answers your question.
other board member questions? Dr. Dreisen?
Great, thank you. And
Thank
thank you
you.
again for being here.
Oh, thank you.
One quick comment and then two questions. The comment building on what you said, I just wanted to share with the board, one of the biggest takeaways for me, which I shared with Ms. Palmer when we were at our training, was that this idea that effective boards have a positive impact on student achievement. And like just to pause and think about that, because it's really our responsibility to work effectively together, because whatever we think, we're all in this for students. And so I appreciate you taking the time to be here and for us taking the time, because we have to work well together, because in the end, it's for the students. So the two questions, I'll share both, and then and you can chime in. One of the nuances that I'm trying to learn as I'm new into the role is this idea that we're the what and Dr. Morton is the how. And I'm really trying to stay in the swim lane as to we're the what. But it can get murky. And in conversations with board members see different issues differently. Does NJSBA have any recommendations on helping us figure out where's the what and where's the how?
We can do further training with you, and as you go through your new board member training, you'll get a lot of that
Yeah.
too.
And then the second question, just so you know, was heard a lot about strategic planning and district goals. I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the NJSBA's perspective on board goals and establishing board goals.
So you guys do board goals, I'm sure, right? You have your board goals?
We don't currently. We're
Okay.
actually going to do the goals training with you coming up in April in
Perfect.
preparation for a change.
So if it's okay, I'll share it. I'll save it until I come back.
Great.
And we're going to be doing that together. Thanks for the
It's on
reminder,
deck.
Gina. Okay.
Any other board members have questions for Dr. Banlow this evening? I'm looking, going once, going twice. All right, thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
so much,
tonight.
everybody, and good luck to everybody.
We look
Thank you.
forward to seeing you back here in April. Thank you. All right, board members. I hope you got a lot out of the training. Every time I hear the roles and responsibilities training, I actually get something new out of it, which is pretty neat. So we're going to move on to one of my favorite parts of the meeting, which is board recognition. And tonight in the room, we have the CHACA Poster, Essay, and Video Contest Awards. I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Morton.
Thank you very much, Ms. Winters. I'm very excited this evening to have an opportunity to recognize some fine-looking and outstanding young people for their participation and their excellence in the CHACA Essay and Poster Contest. I'm going to call up Ms. Jenkins if she is with us. Ms. Metzger went to go get Ms. Jenkins, who is going to help us to distribute the first, second, third place winners as well. I'm also going to ask, see Mr. Finkel here, Dr. Burns, Dr. Benavidez, Dr. Marble, Ms. Metzger, principals, come up to the front with me as well and join me as we recognize the students. As Ms. Jenkins makes her way inside. All right, she's on her way. Just give us 1 minute.
I'm gonna turn it this way. All right, can everyone hear me? So if all of the winners, if you can just stand over there where Mr. Guy is, just get up and stand over there so you won't have to like figure your way out of the. All right, our topic for this year was the African Americans that participated in the Olympics and the Paralympics. And we had some great videos, posters, and essays. So for our K1, we had Miriam Kosamova, She's first place winner. You can come over, Marion. So you're welcome. So, all right, let's go on this side. Oh, yes. Okay. Second place for K1 is Cameron Anderson. You're gonna go and shake Dr. Morton's hand. Okay. Third place is Noah McCongo. And to keep it in the family, second and third grade, first place is Avery McCongo. And tying for first place is Mahit Parmore. Thank you. Now go and shake Dr. Morton's hand. Over here. Okay. All right, second place is Amari Wade, and I'm going to apologize. I misspelled your name. Where did Amari go? Oh, they had to leave. Anyway, we know his grandmom, so we'll just give it to her. First place in fourth and fifth is Chase Williams. Yes, because he's my wildest dream. You see his t-shirt? And we have three second place winners. Faith Webster. Thank you. Neil Perret. Congratulations, sweetie. Amira Austin. Yeah. For sixth and seventh, we have Aiden Kim, first place. Congratulations. Second place is Arnak Kapi, or I keep saying it wrong. Congratulations. How do you say your last name? Capri? Okay. Third place is Max Koenig. Congratulations. Okay. All right. First place, eighth and ninth is Takmina Kosamova. Congratulations. Second place is Tanishka Parmar. Congratulations. Second time for second place is Nimdi Tarrant. She's not here. First place, 10th and 11th is Gina Park. Thank you. Tying for first place, she's not here, is Grace Thomas. Second place is Autumn Chilean. Autumn? No. What? What? Oh, okay. Thank you. Congratulations. Congratulations. Third place is Lana Gross. Did I say it right? Congratulations. Congratulations. And our senior first place is Sekou Tarrant. All right. Yeah, stay right here for a second. The Cherry Hill Education Association gives the first place winner a prize of a gift, a college basket. So. Thank you. And just as a commercial, we like to invite everyone out for March 4th. That's our monthly meeting for the Cherry Hill African American Civic Associations. To my left Tina Truitt O'Neill, she's our president. Emma Waring is our parliamentarian, and Danny Elmore is our vice president. And I'm Kathy Jenkins. And that's Annette Simpkins. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, everybody. All of us board members were saying up here, this is one of our favorite things that happens all year. So congratulations to all the winners. Thank you so much. All right, the next thing on our agenda is presentations. There are no presentations this evening. After that, we have administrative reports. Dr. Morton, are there any administrative reports tonight? No administrative reports this evening, and so we move on to board member correspondence. Tonight, I'm going to start on, which side of the room am I on? I know. Now I have two things to remember, east or west first, and which side of the room do we start on for correspondence? So I'm going to start with Dr. Dreisen for correspondence. Can I put you on the spot?
Sure.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. I'll keep it brief tonight. On February 19th, I attended the monthly meeting of the Garden State Coalition of Schools. And so the meeting this month was a virtual meeting. It consisted of a Q&A with Assemblywoman Rosie Begolia. Dr. Begolia is the Assemblywoman for New Jersey Legislative District 27 and sits on the Education Committee, in addition to serving as Principal Superintendent and Chief School Administrator of the East Newark School District. In general, the conversation this month with Dr. Begolia just reiterated that we're in a bit of a waiting game, soon to end though, with respect to the budget. And so I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
I'm taking over first place in being brief. No correspondence this week.
We'll see if anybody can beat that. Ms. Gallagher?
None.
Kim wins. I have two things. The first one is, I keep saying everything's my favorite, but I really do love it. The district-wide jazz night at Rosa Middle School, where all the jazz bands perform in the round. I went to see that and was yet again blown away by our amazing middle school and high school jazz musicians. The best part of it is watching the high schoolers come back and see the middle schoolers coming up. So it's just a really neat interaction. I love that it's collaborative and not competitive, that it really is a night just to celebrate all of our programs together and watch the kids cheer each other on. It's just beautiful. And the second thing is that I was asked and privileged to speak at the New Jersey Alliance of Black Superintendents meeting, which was held here in Cherry Hill, just to give some opening remarks. It was great to see everybody come together to discuss trends in education and collaborate. So that's all I have for this month. Mr. Greenbaum.
Thank you. Last week, I attended a roundtable discussion with Camden County Fair Funding Committee, along with Ms. Palmer. It was an opportunity to meet with board members, business administrators, and even a few superintendents from districts across Camden County. And a big thank you to Haddon Township for hosting us. What we found was other districts shared our concerns that were also expressed by Ms. Winters when she testified on the SFRA formula in front of the NJDOE. Very similar priorities, looking to stabilize our aid to make it more predictable, update transportation aid to reflect actual and increasing costs, and fund special education based on actual enrollment rather than average numbers. There were a number of other issues discussed as well, but it was a really great opportunity to meet with them, as well as with Assemblyman Miller from District 4, as well as staff from Assemblyman Greenwald's office from District 6. And stay tuned for later this week. We'll find out what the next steps are. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Ms. Shafane. Ms. Stern.
Last week I had a chance to go to the back to school night on site at the Discovery Corner preschool. So these are the students who started preschool temporarily in this building because Discovery Corner's new classrooms were not available. So I saw Dr. Mahan, we got a chance to, she gave me a lovely tour of the building. The classrooms are amazing. They're bright. They're the new classrooms that were added this year, bright and just very inviting and large, very spacious. So lots of room for the kids to move around. And the previous and existing classrooms are also just beautifully decorated, just such a great school environment. But of course, the most important part was all the families that showed up, and some of them with their kids, who, you know, not a single word of just, you know, anything negative to say. I mean, just loving their experience there. You know, so much interaction as they walk through the door with the staff, Dr. Mahan, you know, all the folks obviously know these kids, know them well. The kids know them. Everyone's really comfortable there. And as I was leaving towards the end of the evening, one of the parents was saying that I guess her younger child was going to be aging out after this year and going to kindergarten. And she's just like, I don't know what we're going to do. It's just been so amazing here, this experience. So, you know, it was really nice, I think, that this was set up, even though it's somewhat non-traditional, to have a back-to-school night kind of in the middle of like the school calendar year. But because the students had transitioned from here to, they just wanted to make sure the parents had the opportunity to have that. So that's all I did, and I definitely lost.
But we got to hear all about Discovery Corner, so that made me happy. I love it. Dr. Braddock.
I attended the NJSBA training this past weekend, found it incredibly useful, especially the small groups that for anybody else done training. I found it very useful, and I might be getting ahead of myself, but since we mentioned Discovery Corner, tomorrow I'll be there at 2 o'clock doing African-American read-in for the kiddies. So a bit early, but I'm looking forward to it.
Very neat. Ms. Palmer.
I just want to remind everyone that the next meeting of the Cherry Hill Fair Funding Committee is this Thursday night, well timed with the governor's budget address and the release of our state aid figures we expect. The meeting begins at 7 o'clock. It is on Zoom. You can visit either the Fair Funding Facebook page for the Zoom link, or you can email fairfundingchps@gmail.com to be added to their email list and receive their information. Thanks.
I'm feeling it. I'm feeling all the budget excitement coming up. Everybody's talking about it. It's that time of year. All right, we're moving on to our student representative reports. I'm going to start with High School East this time. Am I wrong? And East is pointing to West, and West is pointing to East, which means that our students just love each other, and it's great. Sure.
Sorry. So in academics, we have the NJGPA math prep is taking place on Monday, March 3rd and Wednesday, March 5th from 2:45 to 4 o'clock in E41. Drop-in scholarship sessions took place February 11th, February 18th, and February 25th during LB1 and LB2. The fifth math league of the year competition took place February 11th during LB2. Air Force Junior ROTC had a unit exam on February 5th, and all phases of the program were examined, and I'm happy to report that West did well. The military ball is taking place on March 1st at Merchantville Country Club. FAFSA completion night took place on February 6th, where students and parents could come in and start as well as finish the FAFSA forum with the help of our guidance team as well as a financial aid professional. ACT testing took place on February 5th as well. Girls basketball and boys basketball will have a home doubleheader next Wednesday. The girls' basketball team is the #1 seed, so they will have a lot of home games, which is a great advantage. And the South Jersey, and they're competing in the South Jersey Group 3 Open against Winslow, which will be their first game, as well as the boys on Wednesday will be going against Deptford. Girls and boys basketball both had their senior nights. February 10th, the swimming team competed against Mainland at the South Jersey Group B semifinals. And I also would like to mention that we are now transitioning on to spring sports, which will start on March 10th. In the arts, we have preparations for Charlie are well underway, so we hope to see everybody at those shows. We also have a mid-year concert, which is called Pops, and it used to be Decades, so it kind of changes every year. So this year it's going to be themed Night at the Movies, and it's taking place tomorrow and on the 27th at 7 p.m. West Music Group, small groups competed at the ICH essays, and one of our students, Rosalina Nguyen, won an award. In extracurriculars, our sophomore class danced the night away at the Sophomore Cotillion, which took place on February 13th. For other notes, we have SGO's blood drive took place on February 19th, where students and staff had the chance to help save lives by donating blood. We also had our Living Museum, which was hosted by the African American Culture Club, which we had a lot of very positive feedback, some saying that it was the best they've ever seen it taken place before. So we love to hear that. Our junior college night took place on February 25th, 2025, which is tonight. And then the Latinos at West sold flowers to students for Valentine's Day. So they took a cart around the school, sold flowers to different students. It's a fun thing that a lot of students look forward to every year. We also want to recognize that Women's History Month is next month, and some clubs will be doing read-ins. Ramadan also starts next month, and where you can wish your Muslim students or fellow colleagues a Ramadan Kareem or just a happy Ramadan. We also want to recognize 2 of our West students, Nimdi and Sekou Tarrant, who were recognized by the African American Civic Association. We are so proud of them. Thank you.
That was lovely. Thank you so much. I love hearing about all the things that are going on. And now to High School East.
Thank you. So in regards to academics, the 3rd marking period began with the beginning of this month, and report cards became available to view on Genesis on February 10. On February 19, guidance counselors hosted a college night for juniors to help them learn more about the process. 98 seniors recently received the Seal of Biliteracy in their respective languages. East seniors Kyan Ling, Aaron Lee, Kyle McCann, and Yul Nam were named National Merit Scholarship finalists. In regards to activities, East African American Culture Club held their annual Black History Month show on Saturday, February 1. Students celebrated Black culture through dances, singing, poetry, and food. It was a really great event, and happy Black History Month. On February 20, the sophomore class enjoyed the Sophomore Cotillion. The theme was Night Under the Lights. Throughout this month, there were several shadow days for middle school students to allow them to get to know what attending high school at East is like. A mandatory senior class trip meeting was held for the students who are attending and their parents on February 12. The senior class trip to Disney World and Universal is rapidly approaching and will be from March 13 to 17. East students and teachers went head-to-head in the Fox 29 trivia game, the Class H Room. The teachers ended up winning the $500 prize, and the episode aired on Fox 29 on February 18th. It is now available to view on YouTube as well. In regards to athletics, the East girls and boys swim teams both won the South Jersey Group A title. The East girls swimming team went on to win the Group A Public State Championship, and the team actually won the title by 0.3 of a second. The boys basketball team has maintained an impressive record of 23 wins and 3 losses and will play their first playoff game against Millville this Thursday at 4 p.m. at East. The team won the Olympic Conference American Division and are the number 1 seed going into the playoffs. Girls basketball also has their first playoff game this Thursday at 5 at Pennsauken. The senior player Darby Chabria recently reached her career milestone of 1,000 points. Congrats to her. In regards to arts, East Thespian Society Troop 213 will open the musical Mary Poppins this Friday, February 28 at 7:30 p.m. The show will also be performed on March 1, 2, 7, 8, and 9. Congrats to the cast and crew. And East's acapella group Stay Tuned participated in the International Championship of High School Acapella Mid-Atlantic quarterfinal competition, which was hosted at East on February 18. Stay Tuned placed first at the quarterfinal and will advance to the 2025 ICHSAA semifinals. East student Regan Daddis won Best Solo Performance of the Night. That's all. Thank you.
Excellent news. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We appreciate it. All right, we were moving on to first public comment. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. This first public comment session is for board action items only, which are items 13 through 16. There will be another public comment section for any topic at the end of the meeting. If you are a student in the district, you may comment on any agenda item during this first public comment period. Please identify yourself as a student. If you would like to speak now, please identify the agenda item and clearly state your name and municipality. We will alternate between speakers here in the room and those that are online. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. The timer on the screen will indicate the amount of time you have remaining. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups, or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district or repetitious, will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. All right, and as we do by custom, we will start in the room. I think we have a student first. Please state your name and municipality.
Hi, Sophia Gaudio. Hello, my name is Sophia, and I'm currently a 9th grader at Cherry Hill High School West. Recently, I've been piecing together my schedule for not only next year, but envisioning the rest of my high school years as well. To make sure I could complete all the electives and classes I would like to take to go with my future career and college major plans, I have moved my PE and health class to online for next year. I'm only mentioning this to show how jam-packed my schedule is with classes I know are going to prepare me for my future in college. But being required to take African American Studies, an extremely selective culture class, I would have to remove one of my half-year electives, such as public speaking, a college dual credit class, or Intro to Computer Science, a class that educates in the field I'm planning to work in when I'm older. This would stop me from receiving instruction that I feel would truly prepare me for my career. And instead of me receiving this personalized education, I would have to take a class on the history of one specific ethnic group. Let this be said, I respect the importance of African American culture and history, but requiring it as a class for everyone to take prevents flexibility in scheduling that students like myself need to focus on individual interests and career path. African American Studies should be an optional class for those who are interested in learning about the subject. Our normal history class covers education on a variety of cultures and ethnicities throughout the year. This assures that everyone's culture is represented at some point and therefore makes me question the reasoning behind the requirement to take an ultra-focused class. Many students, including myself, have crafted our classes in specific ways to have full impact on our education so that it will lead us to the careers we want to pursue. Whether that is medicine, engineering, business, or arts, students are given the privilege to choose classes for a reason. We choose ones that prepare us for college and the workforce. But again, being forced to drop a half year or sometimes even having to forfeit a full year class due to African American Studies does nothing but frustrate students when they have to withdraw from electives that matter to their future. In conclusion, students should be trusted to make the right decisions about their education. We're preparing for our own futures, and we should harness the power to rightfully shape them. This is not meant to be an attack on the class of African American Studies, but simply the requirement that comes alongside it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Going to the line, the next commenter has a phone number ending in 788.
Hi, my name is Jeff Potowitz, and I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Let's go 15.3, appointments certified. Just some questions. typically IEPs are usually completed for, not during the summer, they should be, but for the previous year. So when I'm reading, and this is under 15.3, I'm reading Child Study Team Manages ESY Evaluations. Be it resolved that all current CST case managers be approved to provide learning, psychological, and social evaluation outside of the contract work effective, and it's for a whole year, starting in July and ending the following June. And what students will be, are going to be evaluated? Will they be preschool students? Will they be new kindergarten students? Because like I said, I remember back when that all the evaluations had to be done and the IEPs for the following year had to be done by the summer. This is something new. So who exactly will these, will the child study team members and also the providers, speech therapists, the physical therapists, and the occupational therapists, who will they be evaluating? Will they be all new students? Exactly who will they be evaluating? I'm not complaining about the price. $250 is reasonable, but just who exactly are you? What were the students? Will they be all preschools? What's new kindergartners? What's going on? The other is 13.4, resolution authorizing acceptance of building capacity for career pathways, $168,000. It's near the end. Then everything will be placed on our community with our tax dollars here too. I mean, how many pathways do we have exactly? 1, 2, 10. How many pathways are going to be added this coming year? And that's the main question. How many new pathways are going to be added for that $168,000? And what are the estimated costs for each pathway? Yeah, this is important, given that our aid will be cut and we may have new expenses. And will preschool aid be cut? Will the preschool expansion aid be cut as a result? There's a lot of things we don't know that's happening. Anyway, thank you very much. And those are my questions.
Thank you, Dr. Podowitz. Going back to the room, there's no one else at the microphone. There's no one else online, so I'll close first public comment and move on to superintendent comments.
Thank you, Ms. Winters. I'll actually be very brief today. Just want to say congratulations to all of the Shaka Cherry Hill African American Civic Association SAE poster video contest winners today. Also want to send a special recognition to Shaka for their sustained support of our students and implementing this contest year after year after year. I'm not exactly sure what year it is this year. 10th year? 10th year. I'm sure what year it is this year. It's the 10th year. Thank you, Mr. Guy, that they've continued to recognize our students. So truly a beautiful thing. There are phenomenal things that are happening in all of our schools. Great reports today by our student board reps to just summarize many of those truly outstanding and dynamic things that are occurring. Just as Jenna mentioned, also want to give a plug out for Women's History Month coming up next month. It's important for us to recognize the rights, empowerment, and equality for women internationally. And also I want to put a plug out for Read Across America Week next week. We have our board members signing up to go out to our elementary schools, and they'll be reading with our students. Our administrative team will be doing the same, and definitely looking forward to getting out into the schools and celebrating literature and literacy and reading all together. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We are moving on to our action agenda. I will go first with the curriculum and instruction agenda. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following: 13.1, approval of attendance at conference and workshops for the 24-25 school year. 13.2, approval of out-of-district student placement for the 24-25 school year. 13.3, approval of service contract with NJ Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired for the 24-25 school year. 13.4, resolution authorizing acceptance of the building capacity for career pathways in comprehensive schools, cohort 2, cycle 4. 13.5, first reading of policies. That's policy 5701 on academic integrity. Do I have a second? Ms. Palmer, are there any questions on the C&I agenda this evening? Seeing no questions, Ms. Sugars, please open. Sorry, Dr. Dreisen.
Thank you, Ms. Winters. Just following up, I'm sorry if I missed it before that this was on the agenda for tonight, but I had a question for P&L committee around the focus of policy 5701 related to academic integrity, whether it's specific to students or would it extend to the overall community? I hadn't heard any update on that just yet.
So once the policy comes through the vote tonight, it will go forward and it will be reviewed by P&L. And at that point, you can ask that question.
Okay, thank
It's
you.
only on first reading. I know it takes a long time to figure out this. It took me a while to figure out this cycle of how things go
Okay,
through.
I think we may have already done first reading for this, and that's where I sent it back. So that's why I was surprised to see it now on the agenda.
Yeah, it goes back to P&L.
Right. Okay. Okay.
I'm seeing
Thank
a
you.
nod from Mr. Mayor that I am correct, that it's going to go back to P&L and we will get an answer to your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the CNI agenda this evening? Okay, Ms. Sugars, please open the vote.
Board members, you may cast your votes.
Ms. Sugars, I'm taking a walk of shame. I forgot to log in. I'm a yes to everything.
We have a unanimous yes vote.
All right, moving on to the BNF agenda. Mr. Greenbaum, can you please move the agenda?
Thank you. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following. 14.1, approval of minutes, org meeting minutes dated January 2nd, 2025. 14.2, approval of minutes, board work session, special action meeting minutes, and executive session minutes dated January 14th, 2025. Approval of minutes, 14.3, approval of minutes, regular meeting minutes, and executive session minutes dated January 28th, 2025. 14.4, financial reports. 14.5, resolutions. 14.6, resolutions for the award of RFPs. 14.7, rescission of award RFP 2425-28. 14.8, resolution for the award of transportation. 14.9, resolution for the award of change orders. 14.10, first reading of policies, and this has to do with food service policies, which will be sent over to P&L next. 14.11, this is donations, and I always prefer to read through these. This is acceptance of donations. We have a donation from Carusi PTA to be used for the book fair Carusi. Carusi PTA to be used for 8th grade t-shirts. Donation from Kingston PTA to be used for printed signs and banners. A donation from Cherry Hill Education Foundation to be used for multiple musical instruments at district middle schools. I want to take a moment to recognize the significance of this particular donation. It's a very generous donation of almost $27,000 to support the music programs at our middle schools at a time when budgets are tight and arts and humanities might not always be the top priority. This is a blessing for the district's music program. And I want to extend a sincere thank you on behalf of myself, and I'm going to assume on behalf of the board. We also have another donation from Cherry Hill Education Foundation to be used for enhancing 5th grade technology integration at Kilmer. Regeneron Science Talent Search to be used for STEM activities at High School East. JD Dreyer for providing computer monitors for High School East. The Dan Melby Foundation to be used to assist with building needs at Mann. And the East Choir Trips student account to be used for transportation to music in the park at High School East. A big list of donations this week. And again, thank you very much for your generosity. It's all for the students. And with that being said, do I have a second? Mr. Mayor, are there any questions? And I'm going to raise a hand and ask one question. We have an addendum, 14.7, rescission of award of RFP. I was wondering if I could ask for some additional information on that. It looks like it's related to high impact tutoring.
Yes, so that recension there is to allow for us to move away from using Brainfuse as the primary and exclusive provider of online tutorial services, um, and instead allow that to then go back to our staff. Our staff have graciously risen their hands and volunteered to take the onus for providing tutoring for our students. Definitely want to recognize the staff for doing that. I think we were in a different place coming out of COVID. We're seeing, as we talked about, we discussed staff wellness and staff morale. We're seeing a return back to, things that, used to exist within the district. So it's a positive thing here.
Thank you very much. It sounds fantastic, and I apologize for putting you on the spot, but I appreciate the explanation. Are there other questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, please open the voting.
Board members, you may cast your votes.
Mrs. Sugars, I have to abstain on bill list number 3, the payment to Bancroft, and I believe I also need to abstain on the minutes from January 28th. I did not attend that meeting.
Ms. Sugars, I also need to abstain from bill list number 3 for a conflict of interest, anything related to Beata. Thank you.
Mrs. Sugars, similarly with regard to bill list number 4, I have to recuse myself for a conflict with ESS.
Mrs. Sugars, I'm going to recuse myself from world-class vacations on the second bill list for the senior Disney trip, which my kids will be participating in, senior trip, and also going to recuse myself from the Jewish Federation on the third bill list to, in both situations, avoid a conflict of interest.
Okay, so we have a couple of abstentions. Dr. Dreisen on bill list number 3 for BIATA. Mr. Mayor on bill list number 4 for ESS. Ms. Palmer on bill list number 3 for, I'm sorry, tell me again, Bancroft. And also from the January 28th minutes. And then Ms. Stern is recusing herself from the world-class vacations bill list and the Jewish Federation on the bill list. Other than that, we have a unanimous yes vote.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the HR agenda. Mrs. Sherfane, will you please move it for us?
Sure. The superintendent recommends, and I move the following: 15.1, termination of employment certificated; 15.2, termination of employment non-certificated; 15.3, appointment certificated; 15.4, appointments non-certificated; 15.5, leaves of absence certificated; 15.6, leaves of absence non-certificated; 15.7, other compensation certificated. Do I have a second? Mr. Greenbaum, any questions or comments? I have one. I just wanted to say congratulations to Miss Roby at Thomas Paine Elementary School on her retirement. She was our first grade teacher when the pandemic was hit first. So I witnessed her flexibility with transforming her classroom onto a virtual setting. And I would say if that experience was any indication of how she performed in her classroom, it's a pretty big loss to the district, but congratulations to her. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
I was not going to do this, but I will second that. Mrs. Roby also taught one of the Palmer twins in first grade. So she's fantastic. It is definitely a loss, but I wish her the best.
Absolutely. Anybody else? All right, Ms. Sugars, can you open the voting?
Board members, you may cast your votes.
Mrs. Sugars, I'm going to recuse myself from 15.2 to avoid a conflict of interest, but I have voted yes to the rest. One recusal, Ms. Stern on item 15.2, and the rest of it is a unanimous yes vote.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to Mr. Mayor for the P&L agenda.
Surely, the superintendent recommends that I move the following. Item 16.1, approval of harassment, intimidation, bullying investigation decisions. And item 16.2, approval of the waiver of policy 2340. Specifically, that is to, for 3 consecutive day student excusals for both the high school students east and high school west to participate next week at the state DECA championships. And congratulations to all those students who earned their spots to compete and continue to make Cherry Hill proud. 16.3, first reading of policies, specifically policy 5512, harassment, intimidation, and bullying, 5533, student smoking, 7441, electronic surveillance in school buildings and grounds, 9163, spectator code of conduct for interscholastic events, and 9320, cooperation with law enforcement agencies, with specific reference also to 9163, the spectator code of conduct. Based upon the meeting that I had today with Dr. Mahan, it's my understanding that a one-pager has been or is being prepared. What we talked about at committee was the importance of communicating this new policy to the community, to the parents involved, so that they would know what is expected of them with regard to their continued ability to attend sports and other extracurricular activities. And that's just one step of what we will be doing as a district to continue to communicate that out. So thank you to Dr. Mahan for doing that. We will be prepared to handle all of those for second reading at our next committee meeting. Do I have a second? Ms. Palmer, are there any questions? Dr. Dreisen.
Thank you. Just one comment on policy 9163 related to spectator code of conduct. Ms. Stern actually brought it up at our last meeting. And so I just want to comment, I'm in support. The one thing I wanted to bring this up here related to policy 5701 from February 11th. If we are going to have a policy related to the behavior of everyone as they're watching sporting events, I think it would also be consistent for us to have a policy related to everyone's behavior related to academic integrity. So I do think that they're related in that sense. Policy 9163 refers to people, so it's whoever they are in the community. Right now, policy 5701 is specific to students.
Understood. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, Mrs. Sugars, would you open the voting?
Members, you may cast your votes.
Mrs. Sugars, sorry, yet again. This is a very busy time of year for some of the students, and I'm going to recuse myself on 16.2 to avoid a conflict of interest. And Mr. Green might say that's overkill, but I do have a student who is attending that, so just want to ensure that there is no question that there's no conflict of interest in the way I vote.
Okay, we have Ms. Stern's recusal on item 16.2. Otherwise, we have unanimous yes vote.
Thank you. There are no items on the agenda for the governance committee this evening. Moving on to new business. Are there any board members with new business? Seeing none, are there any board members with old business? Dr. Braddock.
When I originally ran for Board of Education, I promised constituents, or I ran telling constituents that I would adhere to data and find evidence for them where I could. And in that spirit, a discussion had related to Ms. Mahan and what we were doing in the schools in terms of discipline, what they're working and how they're working. I took the liberty of looking up some of that data and seeing what we can expect moving forward, and I like what I see so far. Not just from our schools, but what we can expect based on studies that I've seen in the past. From what I've seen in about 8 or 9 meta-analyses, for those who don't know what meta-analyses are, they're essentially studies that look at dozens of other studies. It shows that some of the things being incorporated into the Cherry Hill School District by Ms. Mahan and others, we can expect positive relationships between peers, including individuals who don't like each other, quote, like each other, a reduction in reoffending, increase social interpersonal skills and increase intergroup attitudes. And I think most importantly for our goals, better academic achievement in terms of grades, motivation, and engagement. So I just want to express enthusiasm for what we talked about last time with Ms. Mahan and what we'll be doing moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Braddock, for bringing that forward to the meeting. Are there any other board members that have old business? All right, seeing none, we're moving forward to second public comment. This is the second public comment section during which you may comment on any topic. If you would like to speak now, please clearly state your name and municipality. We will alternate between speakers here in the room and those that are online. Each speaker will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. The timer on the screen will indicate the amount of time you have remaining. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the community to comment on matters relevant to the operations of the Cherry Hill Public School District or within the authority of the Cherry Hill Board of Education. The board welcomes diverse opinions on relevant matters. Under established federal law governing reasonable restrictions on speech in public forums, statements which demean individual community members or groups, or which are irrelevant to the operations of the school district or repetitious, will not be permitted. Community members who would like to present information not relevant to the school district are always welcome to communicate directly to the district superintendent, board president, and all board members via email or other alternative means. As is our custom, we will start in the room. Anyone who would like to provide second public comment, please approach the microphone now. State your name and municipality.
Rick Short, Cherry Hill. I start again that our entire board is a blur to that we are the most radical school district in the state of New Jersey. Tomorrow starts the national campaign to expose this. You guys have enabled this district, these district leaders, to run wild, to cause tension and division using DEI. It's a really sad situation, what's happened in this town. Let me give you some examples. Madam President, you stated that there were too many white kids in Russell Knight, and that is a problem. You still do not retake that back. I accidentally said one time, I said staff of color wrong. I apologized. I sent emails to everyone on the board, but I still got hit with 6,000 emails sent out to parents that there were racist statements made in a school board meeting. What an irony this is, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go through some of the questions that you don't want to take out of the curriculum that does violate civil rights. Madam President, how's your white privilege today? Madam President, this comes exactly from our consultants. So blacks can't be racist. Is that true? May you ask Dr. Morton. But Dr. Morton, can blacks not be
Please address the
racist?
chair, not Dr. Morton.
No, I asked you to ask Dr. Morton. Okay. Oh, so according to your culture proficiency, when you walk into a room, you're supposed to look at everybody differently. Oh boy. And then eventually you guys want to convince me that I need to have the talk. Oh, the talk that you want to convince me that I have white guilt, that's what you want us to learn, that we have white guilt. So,
Mr. Short, how is this related to the Cherry Hill Public School District?
because I was just talking that this is what your culture proficiency people, which I just showed you today, I sent you in an email, what the culture proficiency people are teaching. Okay, I'll be back. Thank you.
Moving to the line, the first person online, it just says iPhone 25. You are the first speaker. Please unmute yourself, state your name and municipality.
Hi, yes, Benjamin Shore, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Am I recognized?
You are, go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. So, the reason I come here today is I'm just kind of curious about the district's position on the Open Public Records Act. I think the district should really err on the side of transparency. I think that it costs a lot of money to fight people who are simply asking for copies of records. Um, you know, I didn't really prepare much today, but I did see that there was a meeting. So I'm just curious, is it really the best use of taxpayer dollars to fight Oprah requests rather than just providing them? For example, there was a member of this community that requested an Oprah request for a single email. That email could have been produced in minutes. Instead, the district went on, I guess, the defense and spent thousands of dollars fighting against an Oprah request that could have been fulfilled in 10 minutes. There's another member of the audience that actually spoke earlier today, and the district decided to completely ignore him. And again, the district will be spending maybe $1,000, maybe $1,500 fighting these requests. Last night, a lawsuit was filed against the district in Open Public Records Common Law Access. There'll be oral arguments, there'll be briefs, in order to show cause. District's going to spend thousands of dollars fighting that. My question is, how much does it cost to put this money in other places and just simply spend a couple minutes providing records? Is it really in the best interest of the community to spend tens of thousands of dollars, which is kind of the direction this is headed, to just fight records? Cherry Hill Township used to fight tooth and nail to prevent people from getting records. But quickly they discovered that it's actually a lot cheaper and it's better for the community to simply provide the records, aim on the side of transparency, and do the right thing. It helps establish transparency and trust in government, especially when many people right now are, questioning what their government's doing. And it's cheaper to the taxpayers. I mean, there are some cases before the GRC that are likely going to go to the appellate division. There'll be oral arguments, there'll be more briefings. It's going to get more and more expensive. So I would just like the district to please consider, do you really need to fight these? Or can people just simply have a copy of the record? I yield. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else in the room, we continue online. The next speaker says Laura Ann's iPad. Please unmute. You have 3 minutes.
It's Ann Einhorn, Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Thank you, Mr. Greenbaum, for acknowledging the Cherry Hill Educational Foundation. I think it's time at some point that this board recognize all the members of that foundation. They are under newer leadership with John Cohen. I am exceedingly grateful that they are part of our community. I do have a question. We established a grant writing department last August, and I would like to know if there are any grants pending or if any have been written since last August. I believe it's under the Department of Special Projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling in. The next person online is A Wider Bridge. It's your turn. You can unmute. You have 3 minutes.
Alana Yaris, you can hear me?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. Alana Yaris, Cherry Hill, representing the Fair Funding Committee, division of Zone PTA. I just want to thank the board for mentioning that there is a fair funding meeting this coming Thursday evening. I like the efficiency of this meeting, and I plan to run the Fair Funding Committee meeting just as efficient, 7 p.m. on Thursday, virtual. Hopefully by that time, there will be a public statement out from the New Jersey Budget Department on our state funding numbers for the year, and the Fair Funding Committee will discuss our strategy for budget season. Hopefully we don't need to have a strategy, and our number is equitable to what it's been in the past or more, so that we get our fair share for our Cherry Hill students. And feel free to join our meeting. It's posted online on our Facebook page, on Instagram. You can email fairfundingchps@gmail.com. Happy to send you the link and the flyer and put you on our distribution list. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Yaris. The next commenter is a phone number ending in 788. It is your turn. Please unmute and give us your name and municipality.
My name is Jeff Potowitz, and I live in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. There was an article in Eastside dated January 29th, 2024, about the amount of, this was for last year, about the amount of students that were tied to be valedictorian. At that point, from what I'm reading, the article says, and it's by a number of students, and you can find it online, January 29th, 2024, there were 25 students tied for the title of valedictorian, and there seems to be more, or maybe as much more this year. The unprecedented number of valedictorians stems from grade inflation as exacerbated by a flawed GPA system and a lack of course standardization. These factors prompt the question, does the honor of and valedictorian of being valedictorian decrease as the quantity of students who hold this title increase? They talked about grade inflation, and there's a website called Wake Up Call New Jersey, and according to that website, it's Wake Up Call New Jersey. I don't know much about it. I've seen the advertisements, though. It said that 50% of fifth graders in Cherry Hill can't do math at grade level. Yet Cherry Hill schools receive an A rating. Okay, that's a fact that they say about our district. Anyway, go to the website. You may find it interesting. I've seen another fact about our district there, and that's about grade inflation. It's just something to be interested about, and it's Wake Up Call New Jersey. You may know about it. I don't know about it, but anyway, some of you may know about it. Anyway, about this grade inflation, what I don't understand is why you're going why it's not a number grade, but yet it's not the number grade, but it's a letter grade. And the article goes on to explain something about it. I think I don't know when you went from a letter grade, so this way you have to get all A's to be valedictorian, to a number grade, which would decrease the amount of people that are valedictorian, and yet we'll spread it out a little bit. We'll show actual class standing, and I can understand why people feel stressed if there are 25, 26 people all in the running for valedictorian. Then you immediately start out at 27. Maybe someone who would be 27, maybe number 18 or 19 or 20. It would probably cut down in calculation. I don't know why it went to that as opposed to the letter grade, which kind of, I don't know. There's so many reasons why. Just read that article. I'm sorry that I don't remember the name, but it's a good name. It's a good article, and also go to Wake Up Call New Jersey. But that's a real good article. And
Thank you, Dr. Potowitz. Thank you for calling in. Looking back to the room, I don't see anyone else coming to the mic. Looking online, I don't see anyone else with a hand raised. So I'm going to close second public comment and move on to superintendent's comments.
Again, I don't have much. Just to clarify about the grading scale that's utilized at the high school level. Students do obtain letter grades. Letter grades, though, then correspond back to an unweighted or a weighted GPA scale. We go all the way up to a 7-point weighted GPA scale for recognition of honors and advanced placement courses, 4.0 scale for classes that are not. So everything translates back into a 4-point scale or 7-point scale ultimately. With that being said, thank you to everyone for their comments this evening. Again, I believe it was mentioned this evening, but we're expecting release of budget allocations in the next several days. Our next board meeting will feature a budget presentation. So stay tuned. I'm sure there will be lots to discuss. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. As we are closing out Black History Month, I want to wish everybody a happy Black History Month. And with that, I will take a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Yes, we need second executive session.
Thank you all for correcting me. We are going into second executive session following the meeting. Mr. Green, is there a particular motion I need to make?
Yes, Madam President. The motion is to go back into an executive session for purposes of discussing student matters and attorney-client privilege. These matters will, to the extent possible, be disclosed to the public at an appropriate time.
Thank you so much for catching my mistake and clarifying the motion. Is there a second to that motion? Dr. Braddock, and we will move into second executive session. Thank you so much,
We
everybody.
should also clarify, we're not going to be taking any action when we come out.
We will not be taking any action when we come out.
Thank you.
I did it?
You did it.
All right, here we go. Thanks so much, everybody.